so you know that in Lansing, we are active. We are activating our resources to make sure to not only have the conversation with the public, but to also act on that conversation.
Lansing Mayor Andy Schor introducing several new proposals today calling for citywide reforms. The plan, called the Racial Justice and Community Action Proposals, follows calls for his resignation and a defunding of the police. Fox 47's Christiana Ford talked to the mayor today about the plan and brings us this report.
I was elected to do a job, and I'm going to do that job.
After weeks of protests against police brutality and calls for him to resign, Lansing Mayor Andy Schor not backing down and instead pushing forward on a new plan to promote racial equity and justice in the city.
It's been a few weeks since George Floyd was killed, and that was horrific. And this is something that we need to be working on diversity. We need to be working on equity work. We need to be working on racial justice. This is a hot button issue, and this is a good time to strike while the iron's hot, to get this out and to start doing this work.
Immediately committing to requiring less use of force police policies. We shouldn't
have police officers shooting at moving vehicles. We shouldn't have chokeholds and strangleholds. That's what we saw in Minneapolis. That's not allowed here in Lansing. So we're going to implement, if they're not already implemented, we're going to implement all of these measures.
And additional training for officers.
They can review, again, as part of the review of their policies, things that have been harmful to minority communities in the past, and how we can reconcile our police and ensure that we have the trust between our police and our community.
Next steps include a variety of town hall listening sessions with the community, facing topics like the police budget.
To talk about our community resources, to talk about how much we put into social services, how much we put into policing enforcement, into policing community services, into a whole variety of things that I know people are concerned about now.
Schor says input from protesters have helped, but change will take time.
It'll take as long as it needs to make sure that we get it right. When you have to make policy change, you work on it.
Many community members say that's not enough and are still calling for him to resign.
This is a complete 360 to what we just already had and never got nothing out of. Like, he's had 2 years to make this right. He's had 2 years to put these reforms in. This is what he ran on. He ran on transparency. He ran on diversity. It's really more or less for him about getting out of the situation right now as it sits, not about putting lasting change in to help the Black and brown communities of the city.
Christiana Ford, Fox 47.
Mayor Schor says Lansing Police Chief Darrell Green is supportive of the plan, which also calls for implicit bias training throughout the city's departments and creation of a diversity and inclusion officer position. The plan is very detailed. You can read it in full on our website, fox47news.com.